Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to episode 100 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos. Boring regular guests include Tettles and Trell. An extra special, not boring special guest this week is the most handsome, smartest, and cutest M Plus player, Dorki. Hello, welcome to the show.
Yo, wait, what the hell? You have my freaking Discord avatar thing on stream.
Yeah,
Oh my god, you could use. Okay,
I change it if
well,
you want.
guys.
You can turn on your camera if you want.
What
What
That's
are you
true. I am
changing it
most
to?
handsome, cutest. I don't know. Just put my cat or something.
You can put you can literally change your Discord avatar mid-show to anything you want, and it will show up here.
That's true.
It's almost too much power for one person to wield.
There's a lot of power.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
So this week we're going to talk with Dorky about mostly Mythic Plus stuff, as you are most known for being a premier North American Mythic Plus tank. We'll talk about the Great
Yep, I
Push
am the
as
best.
well. Yep. Um,
Yep, I was in that.
yeah, which went reasonably well. Especially, I think days 1 and 2 were particularly good for your team. Day 3 was a little bit rough from
Oh
what
yeah,
I
we
could
were
see.
holding. Yeah, day three was like a clown fiesta.
Yeah. And then we'll talk also about the state of the metagame in Mythic Plus this season, what it's looking like so far, how everything is coming together with the affix and everything as well. You're also a raider too, right? But in raid, you are, like many of the druids, relegated to the boomkin role. How has that been working out for you this year?
Dude, I've always been a Boomkin main, and it's actually really fun this patch. I remember BFA was not a big fan of it, and even in like the first patch of Shadowlands, it was kind of alright. But I think Boomkin's actually really fun at the moment. And of course, it owns being top damage.
True.
Of course, that always makes it fun by default.
It's really skill
Yep.
expressive, I think, is the biggest thing. Right?
Okay,
and if you're
dude.
no. Like if you're
Okay.
good, you're top DPS. If you're mediocre like
That's
me,
true.
you're somewhere in the middle of the pack.
So, since our last show, one big thing that has happened is, like, right after we recorded, pretty much, the day after, there was a set of buffs to Shard of Domination that went live, forced me and Tettles to re-record this thing we were doing about Shards of Domination multiple times. Let's take a quick look at what those are. So this is the hot fixes. Bloodlink got buffed by 20%, and Winds of Winter got buffed by, it looks like now about 45% is the number that's being called here, which I really wish I was playing Bloodlink now, man. I'm so sad. I'm really sad about it.
If you were playing Bloodlink, maybe Sylvanas would have died.
Maybe,
Dratnos.
man. Dude. Honestly, if everybody got their Stygian Embers back and we could spend them on what we actually wanted now, it would be so good and cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Um, and Winds of Winter as well. People starting to use that too, a little bit, a little rogue action using that thing.
Rogue Demon Hunter, yeah, both
Yeah.
of those really want it.
What about Pharaoh Jews, man?
Is Feral one
Yeah,
Frost really?
yeah.
Yeah, dude, very crazy with it.
Okay. I don't know anything about. I know very little about Feral theory crafting.
Oh, come on, man.
Aren't you gonna don't we have a project where maybe soon you'll get to play Feral with me, perhaps?
I could play Feral.
Well,
I won't be playing it.
start catching up on the theory crafting.
All right. Well, I need to figure it out. It'll be okay. I'll call my people.
I have a project that I'm hoping to play some Survival Hunter M Plus this season. I'm gonna try and gear it up from like easy bosses in raid, sneak it in, and just be able to just tell somebody else to tank some bosses and
Oh no.
put some items on that thing and then blast some keys because I think that is gonna do so much damn.
Make Corey tank.
Yeah,
Yeah, make Corey say.
he just loves being assigned new jobs. That's one of his favorite things. Okay, let's go into talking about the Great Push, which of course it happened like a couple months ago now, back in Prideful season. Do we know whether and what the Great Push, if any, is going to happen again this season? Is that information?
Nothing has
do
been
we
announced.
know? Okay. Well,
Nothing has been announced publicly.
yeah, I mean, it went well, so hopefully it's something that they will again look to do. At least is my perspective on it. I don't know, Dorky. Did you have fun doing Great Push?
Yo, it was fun as hell. But I do think Healing Stat had an interview where he talked about wanting to bring it back again. Not sure if it's gonna be Great Push exactly, because they did say they want to do some type of community event, nothing too serious like MDI.
Yeah, that's
Which
the
means that they didn't, yeah, they didn't
the.
expect the Great Push to be that serious, I guess.
I think it could be. Man, I think it could be so good. I think it could be a serious,
I agree.
primary
Yeah.
format. It was just so awesome. I do think we got lucky though with the Great Push to have like 4 teams that could all win it on the last run as we went into overtime. I think that was probably above average, luck from a tournament organizer perspective.
Yeah, I felt like it was actually really close until the end.
Hmm.
By the end, I mean like the last day. Because like it basically came down to that if that plague fall, assuming it was like gonna be similar level to the rest of the keys, basically came down to 1 or 2 keys being the determining factor.
That Andy Brushish team putting up that 26 DOS or
Yeah,
whatever,
that was
and being
insane.
holy shit. Like Hippo was talking about how they got trapped in DOS prison in like a channel in Dorky's Discord, and he was always complaining about being in DOS prison. So then them busting out a 26 DOS.
They
That was
one shot it as
surprising.
well, right? They just rolled up in there, did the dungeon once, left, and everybody else is like, "What?"
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. How did you feel about the way the format was structured and like pushing the keys up? Was it fun to prepare for as well as play, or because I know
So
MDI
yeah.
often has the kind of problems with preparation.
Honestly, in the very beginning, we were super skeptical about it. Like 3 hours of, or not 3 hours, 5 hours of pushing for 3 days. That felt like it was way too little because like us key pushers, we play for like literally 14 hours a day, nonstop, every day of the week. But it's actually a really different format. Like when you go into the keys, where you're just always blasting high keys, it's not the same as doing live keys. Because like normally when you're doing live keys, you have one really big key here and there, and then you have like a bunch of smaller keys, right? Like let's say you're just pushing up nice chill halls or a mist, and there's not as much focus required or like not much at stake. Where you're just kind of like going into the key and having fun. But like when you're just doing 5 hours of nonstop high keys, it actually drains the hell out of you. Like the normal 14 days that we do on M plus push weeks didn't feel nearly as bad as these 5 hour. Well, I won't say bad, but as like
Draining,
taxing
yeah.
or draining, yeah.
Well, because there's
How do
no
you-
there's no
Well,
practice keys, right? There's no like push key.
yeah, like
It's
you're just
all,
going in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't deplete, so you're always trying for the highest key over and over and over until you get it.
Yeah.
That is nice on live where you get like 3 keys after like a world first key if you do it. Then you get like 3 relaxing chill keys before you ramp back up to give it your all in the next big key. I agree. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Yeah. But in terms of the format itself, I'm actually really content with how it went. I think a lot of it is due to the feedback that they got from like Zyro and whoever else was involved. I'm
Whoever
sure you
else,
guys have
yeah,
probably
of
had some part
course.
to it too. Yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
the what do you call it? The qualifiers, though, I was not as big of a fan of.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know. There's just something about going into Spires and Necrotic Wake nonstop for 3 days straight. Or was it 2 days? I can't remember
It's
exactly.
2. It was only 2.
But like, it was only 2. Holy crap! It was pretty brutal. I mean, we got the good end of the stick because like we actually got we got one of the first Necrotic Wake 28s because we practiced the hell out of our strat.
yeah, of course, the Amarth out of the boss room
Yeah,
maneuver.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was a
the cool
really
tech.
good one.
Which that has been something that kind of brings us towards that. There's of course surrounding the right push this huge controversy around the plague borers. Does that count as an exploit? Was that just a good trick? And I think that stuff like a Marth out of the boss room not doing mechanics is kind of a similar in a similar vein. Do you have a take on like the whole the whole situation, like exploits in Mythic Plus versus is that just part of the game?
Well, first of all, they're all clearly exploits. Like, there's no way to really spin it. I know people always say like tricks or stuff like that. That's just like a friendly way of putting it. But honestly, you're just cheating in the end.
Allowed
But like
exploits.
that's a large part of M plus. It's like JB says. It's literally what you do in M plus. You're just like constantly figuring out ways to break the game, and like unless they enforce it heavily, people are just gonna be doing this.
Yeah,
The only thing I would say is they should have said that we should have had to talk to the admins earlier about this. Like I know Gingy had the whole thing about him saying, "Oh, they went over with the admins," but really all Mason said that they said was like, "Can we snap these plague boards?" And oh yeah, sure, snapping plague boards, but they didn't realize that they were doing some infinite MD thing. And actually, we didn't know about that either until like we actually tried it in the tournament. Because like during the last day, all we did was just we spent like a solid 2 or 3 hours figuring out how to do this. And like we had people telling us, "Oh, you just get in combat with it and feign," and
Yeah,
it turns
just
out
global
it's not that
combat.
simple.
Oh, don't listen
Yeah,
to Twitch
yeah.
chat on that one. Oh no.
well, because
yeah,
we
no,
just
they-
assumed
they-
it was global combat because I couldn't see MD on the buff bar, but yeah.
Oh, so that's where they got it from. Yeah, Twitch chat was baiting the hell out of
Yeah.
us. We were asking chat, we were like, "Yo, what do you guys think?" And everyone's like, "Oh, it's just global combat, just tag something and pull it in."
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah,
it turns
I heard
out there
that
was
too,
like
and I was
some.
like, what? They don't give global combat.
Yeah, I know that they're like tightening up the rules now about having to tell the admins like with more detail what you're gonna do, so that it's a little bit less like trying to get something past them.
Gray area. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think would be good. But I do hope that they keep it. Like I would not like to see a world where we never see cool strats because they're not how the dungeon was designed to be done, right?
That is true.
The way the dungeons are designed to be done is very boring, right? You walk in, you pull one pack, then you go and pull the next pack, and then you pull the next pack, right?
Yeah.
That's
I really do miss snapping from BFA. I think that was like a really large part of the fun in different techs and polls and stuff.
I think the way that they handled snapping is probably pretty good this expansion. The way that like mobs do eventually snap, but it's like pretty costly because I think it was too good in BFA that when they just like
That is
insta
true, it is a little
snapped
too
and
good.
didn't like you just could group everything up for free, it had no downside. But
Yeah, it was by the end they were snapping a full 20% of the dungeon onto the first boss. Like
Yeah.
on a non-snap spot, just using the evade no path available technique to do it. Like that just has infinite potential. So they did have to do something right.
I mean, we've still seen snaps this expansion as well. Like in MDI, the Necropolis snap down to the bottom. Like you
That
just
was
bite the bullet
fucking
on them
hilarious.
evading for 2 seconds when
Yeah.
they come down, and it's like, oh, this is still worth. But yeah, I mean, I do get where you're coming from though, where it's like anytime something like that gets taken away, you kind of yearn for the good old days when you could do crazier stuff.
Ah, yes, like gear swapping in dungeons.
Gear
Dude, that's-
swapping
oh.
is a different
Dude, screw
angle, I'd
gear swap
say.
it.
Yeah.
I'm so happy Tettles came around to have that opinion. I've always missed gear swapping.
Me and Dorky are on the no swap
I'm on the
gang.
opposite side. Yeah. I mean, I like doing it, but I feel like at some point it just got too much. It was too much on your bags. It was too much on your hotkeys.
Man, I'm not trying to farm Torghast for 6 months so that I can have all my legendaries
That's true
ready.
too. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
That would be really bad.
I don't like Torghast that much.
True.
Oh, I really don't like Torghast that much. Wait.
Speaking of MDI as well, Growl mentioned on his stream the other night that he's going to try and persuade you to actually do the MDI, which historically your team has been like a live key team. You took the step in with great push, but otherwise you'd always been like, we're not really going to do MDI. Growl in particular is talking about how it was like not the M plus he wanted to do a year ago and stuff. But has anything changed? Are you guys feeling more interested in playing it this time around? I know, of course, the format's new.
Yeah, I don't know if this is leaked yet, but it is leaked now that we are playing MDI.
Oh shit!
Oh my goodness gracious! Leaked
Oh,
on the
wait.
Titanforge
Oh my
podcast.
god.
Exclusive news. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. Actually, it's going to be very soon. For people used to the regular cycle of like a few months between patch and MDI, this time around the qualifiers are this month, right there, later this month. So that is going to be hype. And 24 teams are going to qualify as well, so you guys should be able to at least sneak in around that 24th seed. I hope.
Well, hold on. Wait a
I
second.
hope
It's
so.
good enough, guys.
Okay,
I was
so what
actually
if-
gonna ask. I was gonna ask Dorky earlier about something about MDI, but I wasn't sure if it was public. But now I can't. So since you're having energy issues on like the 2 days of the Great Push qualifiers, how do you feel about time trials? Because that's going to be really similar. and I think it's even longer still, right?
Yeah, I actually
Like, all
don't know the
day.
exact format. Do you guys know how it works exactly?
I think the time trial, it's just one time trial weekend, I think, and then it goes into the. I actually don't know if I don't know if I am supposed to know what the actual time trials format is, but I definitely don't actually know either, so I can't tell you.
I thought it was supposed to be the same format, just one time trial instead of 3, right?
Yeah, it's one time trial weekend, and then the top 24 teams get split into those 3 groups. But I don't know exactly like how intense that one time trial weekend is. And this isn't a case of like I actually know and I'm not allowed to say. Tettles might be in that spot. You can see that he's kind of got that angst on his face.
I don't-
But I
I don't
actually
know-
just don't know. It's not in my head.
I don't know what's on the game battles page
Yeah, there's a game battles page that has some info.
because there are things that I know, but like I can't share. And
Okay,
it's
hang
just
on.
like I don't know what I can and can't leak.
Tournament rules. Okay, this is just the usual copy paste. Oh, time trials. Okay. Time trials is a way for Blizzard to judge the overall skill, expertise, and flexibility of you and your team as you tackle 2 dungeons. The affixes and levels will be set by Blizzard, communicated at the start of the time trials, taking place over 6 days. Is how long the time trials go.
Okay.
2 dungeons. So it looks like kind of great push style qualifiers.
Oh, they say 2 dungeons over 6 days.
Yeah, with the keystone level and affix combo set, so you don't push the key.
So that's literally the normal MDI time trials, just 2 dungeons.
Well, I don't
instead of
see anything
3.
about practice mode here either.
Oh no, that's so.
Oh wait,
long.
you only get 5 attempts or something?
No, he said there's no practice mode,
Oh,
which means you get unlimited attempts.
well, there's some language here that suggests maybe the key level goes up. I
what
don't
does
know.
it say?
Wait,
like
you're telling me we're
Keystone
pushing
level
keys?
completed in time in the 2 dungeons, calculated by adding the keystone level across the 2 dungeons. The maximum level the dungeons can be done will be capped and announced by Blizzard at the start of the time trials.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So they have you start at a lower keystone level, you
and
push
then
it
put a
up,
cap on
right?
it still.
And then they put a cap on it,
Huh.
and then you go for speed after the cap.
Okay, I wonder what they'll set the cap to. I wonder if
That's
it'll be like
interesting.
18 or if they'll go like 22 or something higher, like even higher than the actual MDI has usually been.
I don't know. That read to me like they just want to reserve the right to set it to any key level they want at the beginning of the week. But maybe you're
Yeah,
right.
certainly, and certainly something that I have no idea exactly what that will look like. But either way, it's one time trial period, and then that's it. No more time trials, which is a big improvement from the old format, which was time trial, cup weekend, time trial, cup weekend, time trial, cup weekend.
That was so sleeper.
And here you also only have to play in one cup weekend as well, right? You just have your one group weekend that you play in, and then you maybe have the last day in tournament as well if you don't qualify from the group weekend, and then it's global finals. So it is a much more streamlined setup for the teams, which I think I've definitely heard a lot of more interest from like the M plus play. There's this kind of set of players. Charlie, you're kind of in this category too. I don't know what you feel about the MDI this time around, but you're in this category of like people who played the MDI in Legion or BFA and kind of weren't really interested in Shadowlands Season 1. And I think a lot of people in that class are more excited about this format, which I think is good.
Yeah, so that's why Trell's announcing a team with Undad Television and himself, and who else is staunchly against the MDI now?
Wait,
That-
Elite?
No, I don't have a team planned. But if I had the time and I had a team, I would definitely be doing it. I think these are really good changes. It basically takes you down from 3 time trials to 1, which is already like 2 weeks of time saved. From 3 cups to 1 cup, which is another 4 weeks saved, basically, for practice for those cups too. Like that's huge for people that can't just play 14 hours a day. Like there's no way to do it otherwise.
Dorky, do you have just hypothetically, would you rather play in the first, second, or third of the cup weekends, assuming all the competition level is equal? Like, which one do you think would be more either fun or give you the bigger competitive advantage against the other teams? Is this something you've thought about at all?
I feel like for our team specifically, it would definitely be. Oh, it also depends on if they keep TR access up, because that's gonna be an unknown, right? Like we don't know yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
I always
yeah.
advocate for just taking the TR down, not letting people practice on it. But they always
okay.
want to keep it up. I don't know.
Or if that, I guess even then, we'd probably want the later ones, just because we have very little MDI experience, except for one of our members. So,
So
I
you
feel
want to be able
that
to like see what the other
yeah,
teams do
for
and
us,
practice
yeah,
it.
like we
Yeah.
want to be able to see more stuff and like try stuff out before we actually jump in there.
That makes sense.
But I mean,
Yeah,
we've been
definitely.
speculating a lot. Like we've been talking amongst our team about what exactly we do and how we should do certain stuff.
That's
But yeah, we'll
exciting.
see.
I'm very excited to see teams, your team in particular, and teams like yours, stepping into MDI this time around. It should be a good watch. All right, let's move on to our tip of the week segment. My tip of the week is okay. So you know Malbog in Korthia. You don't actually need the purple buff from the mob in the place that you talk to get the thing following you. You don't need that to spawn Malbog. If you just run the path that it would show you, the meat will show up and you can click on it at the end, and you can just spawn Malbog. You don't need to follow the footprints or anything. If you walk that path perfectly, you literally can fight Malbog. You can create Malbog out of thin air. It's incredible.
Dorky,
It's so
I have a
good.
question.
I don't even know
Is
what that means.
Okay.
Okay, so Malbog normally gets spawned by somebody talking to a collector in town who's glowing purple, and then that collector will give you a little pup that puts footprints on the ground that you follow. But you actually don't need that. You can just spawn Malbog yourself by following where the footprints would be if you know where they go. It's so cool.
So basically nothing for me.
Yeah, I
But
guess.
thanks for the tip.
Dude, wait, hold on. Dorky before the show. I go, Dratus, what is this tip about Malbog? He goes, you'll have to see later. Dorky goes, wait, I want to know.
Dude, I thought it was some hack to like quickly get
It
tier
is!
6
Dude, it's a
archivist.
hack.
Oh
It's
my god, yo,
Malbog
I am
hack.
not gonna bother doing some RP thing where I have to like talk to some guy. And
No, you
walk
don't
to
have
some
to talk to a
place
guy.
and
That's the
stuff.
thing. You just have to follow where the line would be from if you had talked to the guy. Oh, I swear, nobody listens
It's
to
a
me.
good tip, Dreadnoughts. It's a good tip.
No,
not a good
it's a
tip.
great tip.
Getting
I just
50
don't know how to
archivist
apply
resources.
All right, let's move on to Charles' tip. What do you have for us?
You want to play the clip? This is something
Sure.
I just saw before the show. This is from our friend Preheat, which is some really good tech on Sylvanas, the last boss of the raid. You can actually avoid the raid damage entirely if this Wailing Arrow goes on a mage or a rogue. Maybe a hunter
What about a meld?
or a night elf. Yeah, I'm sure you can meld it. It's an instant vanish. But everything that drops aggro completely, like greater invisibility, vanish from rogues, shadow meld, it has to be very instant, not like feign death where it has a fade time. Feign death would probably not work. I wouldn't risk it.
I don't even know if Vanish works. All I've heard about that works on this is the Greater Invis. I don't know though.
Oh, sure. Maybe Vanish does.
But yeah,
because
it's
there are
definitely something
separate
to-
kinds
to-
of invisibility.
To like try with all of them. But yeah, you can see there the Greater Invis and then the arrow just doesn't shoot. It deletes an arrow. If you follow his Twitter, it's like a 1 GCD window. You have to hit the perfect timing on it. So it's pretty tight. But if you do, removes a Wailing Arrow on last phase Sylvanas. That is very, very good on that last platform.
Or you can just wipe your whole
That's
raid.
OP.
All right, Dorky,
Yeah.
do you have a tip, or did we? I don't have one written down here. It's okay if you don't.
I didn't have a tip, but I guess the tip is also you can bane or vanish the charge from Varuf. You know, the execution of Varuf when
Ooh.
it does the bleed.
Yeah.
Love that.
But you
Yeah.
only want to do it when it's midair. You don't want to do it while it's casting on you.
Okay.
Oh, because it'll
Because it'll
recast.
retarget, right?
Yeah.
So it's like while it's charging, if you feign, it will like show up and then not do its swirl around AOE.
Yeah,
How
like
that
it'll
works?
charge at you midair, and then it'll just stop midway.
Okay, cool.
Have you seen any other ways to dodge that thing? I've seen a lot of people try, but
Yeah, I've
I
seen
think I
people
saw
try,
one
but I don't
druid
think
dodge
you
it
can.
once, maybe.
It might just be RNG dodge, like the chance of you dodging.
Oh, natty dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
All right, Tettles, what is our clip of the week that we're looking at here?
Oh, it's
Do we want
a
sound for
banger.
this?
We don't need sound for this, although it is funny.
Okay, what are we looking at?
We were looking at Painsmith
Oh,
by our friend
Oh!
Megura.
Oh no! Oh, I know what that stun
no.
was.
Dorky, what do you think about that stuff?
Oh goodness.
I mean, Venfear Boomkin does come at a cost.
Oh. Oh no.
You can tell You can tell immediately she's like, what just stunned me? And then she looks at the middle of her screen with the loss of control thing. She's like, holy fuck, I'm so dumb.
Yeah.
It's a great clip.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's just like the epitome of people memeing Venthyr Boomkins about dying to mechanics. Like that right there is what happens every once in a while, but it's just so funny it happened to her.
Dude,
That
it's
is actually a habit. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
it's you need to like be spamming
Okay.
always, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say like that is a habit that you have to build as a Venthyr Boomkin, where like if there's nothing going on, you can just like spam the spell on yourself or something, or shapeshift or something.
I guess we should also explain why that happens, or like if you don't use something every single global when you're Ravenous Frenzy window, then you get stunned eventually, and that's you get mini stunned right before she got around the spike ball, then it killed it.
Yeah.
I got a hack for Ravenous Frenzy to tell you about later, Dorky.
Ooh,
What?
cool.
Later?
Ah, later,
Top
yeah.
secret tech. I
Is
like
it?
this.
Is it? Oh my god! Tells exploiting the video game.
Is it decurs? Is it flap?
Flap hack?
It's not
Flap
flap hack. All right.
Detection? Wait, is there a toy?
No, it's nothing like that.
Okay. Well, let's move on to talking about the state of the meta for M+. So, this is something that is always tough to talk about because everybody is in a different, like, state of Mythic Plus, right? And people experiencing it in different ways, right? People doing, like, weekly keys with their friends, you know, pugging, doing medium to high keys, doing high keys, are all in very different worlds, right? And even just with a different set of people that you play with, things can feel very different as well. So, bearing that in mind, we are going to talk more about that kind of high key metagame in this segment, because that is Dorky's area of expertise, of course.
Bearing that in mind.
Yeah, bearing that in mind. Bro.
I see what you did there.
But let's start off by making some predictions about, like, you know, some seasons the metagame is pretty rigid, right? Some seasons it's like, okay, you are not playing a prop warrior and a holy paladin and a fire mage. Like, what are you you know, why are you here, right? This is not going to work for you. And then some seasons it's like, okay, you know, not only can you swap one of those to something else, you can really play, like, any tank healer you want, any DPS setup you want. Like, some are better than others, right? But it's not a case of, like, oh, you can't do high keys on that character. So with the first look of, like, coming into this season, do you have any guess on where this one's going to end up?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite topics because I actually really like knowing about the meta or what makes certain classes good and all. But I've gotten this question a lot. It's probably like one of my most commonly asked Twitch chat questions. What do I think about the meta? What am I going to be playing this season? What is the meta comp? Best tank, best healer, etc. And it's actually really hard to say. Like, normally I would just say, all right, you know, you run Prot Warrior, you run H-Power, Resto Druid, you run Fire Mage, Rogue, because, you know, Fire Mage is always the main character.
True.
But, yeah, this time around, it's actually really hard to say. Like, I can't give someone a strict answer. Because, I mean, also, it depends a lot on the dungeons. You're not always going to want one tank or one healer. I guess most of the time you do want one healer still, but there's a lot more flexibility.
It
Like,
it also is really weird because you have dungeons like Theater of Pain, and then you have dungeons like
yeah.
Halls of Atonement, where you just want like very different things for those two dungeons.
it's especially weird now because you have uncapped AoE and you have capped AoE.
Yeah, that's true. So, like,
But yeah,
you're trying to play, like, a capped AoE character in Halls or in, like, DOS, you know, Ardenworld pulls, right?
yeah, that's just weird.
But then if you go to theater, it's like, okay, I don't feel this at all, right? And there's never more than 5 mobs in a pull.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say like the biggest thing, honestly, is that this is by far the best balancing it has been in WoW.
For M+, yeah.
Well, at least for M+. Yeah, for M+, ever since M+ has been released.
So let's start off by talking about tanks then. As a tank scientist, I personally agree as well that tank balance is really, really phenomenal, both in raid and M+ right now. I do think, though, that the Guardian Druid, which both yourself and myself play right now, is uniquely strong in Mythic Plus, and we saw a little bit in the Great Push, right? It was there were a lot of bears seeing played there. There were also some Vengeance and even a Prot Warrior that popped up in that thing. But I think the 3-minute tankiness you have around Incarn with Ursox Fury just makes these pulls work that don't for anything else. What is your take on different tanks this season? And do you agree Bear a little bit above everything else?
Yeah, so when you put it here on this, Bears on its own tier, I didn't necessarily agree with that. But when you say it's uniquely better, I do agree with that. Because at the moment, I do feel like Bear's a little bit niche. Like, as you seen last season, like even last season, Bear was the best tank. But nobody played it until you saw it at the very highest keys or in great push where you're doing some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just sort of how Bear tank is. Like, outside of the Incarn window, they're not that great of a tank. You struggle a lot with Fred. Your survivability is like pretty okay, but not necessarily amazing.
Sure.
So that just means that it largely comes down to the dungeons you're playing and what level you're playing at. Because for the most part, you're probably still better off playing other tanks. Like if you're just doing 20 keys or if you're doing MDI, for example, I really doubt you're gonna see any bear tanks there because bears are just not built for that. They need to have those hibernation pulls, you know. Bears always need to hibernate. Yeah, you can't always just be blasting. Like you're not a demon hunter. You just go in there, fell dev, blast that pole, go into the next pole, and just continue blasting
They'll that
nonstop.
blast that pull
Yeah,
again.
yeah. They need to chill. They need to have some break pulls in between, and I just don't think bears are that suited for those types of situations.
Yeah, I think the way you
But
characterize
also,
it. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So like, I also there's like a heavy prediction because I've been like speculating a lot, but I feel that there's a lot of tanks that will get better and better as the patch goes on.
That's
And people
very
don't
true.
really realize this. Yeah, because like there's so many powers that we're getting this season. I didn't even realize, but the new raid trinkets are like
Oh, they're
absolutely
so
busted.
good. The
Yeah,
Aegis
the
is
9
insane,
trinket.
man.
Yeah, you're literally god mode for 8 seconds on a 1.5 minute cooldown. And then I was looking at some of the numbers for the reactive. What is it even called? The
Oh, the
guardian
Guardian
trinket.
trinket, yeah.
Yeah, the matrix trinket. Yeah, that gives you so much passive throughput. It does like roughly 400 to 500 DPS and 400 to 500 HPS,
What
which
the
is like
fuck?
ridiculous. Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
crazy for
huge.
one trinket. Yeah, so like if you have these trinkets on a class like Prop Paladin, Prop Warrior, Brewmaster, they benefit a ton from it. Whereas like Bear Tank, all right, you know, it's nice having an extra little bit of defensiveness, but that's always been Bear's like expertise. Whereas like imagine if you're capable of playing a Prop Paladin in keys, they would be absolutely insane if they were able to do higher keys. And like same with the shards, Shard of Cure. I don't know if you guys have seen the amount of healing it does.
Oh
It's
yeah.
actually
yeah.
pretty
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like that little pride ass thing.
Yeah.
That's a ton of
That
extra
thing,
healing.
if you have it on all of your raiders at like rank 2 or rank 3, I think it's equitable to something like 4,000 HPS across your whole entire raid.
Yep,
Which
probably more.
that's a fucking ton, by the way.
Yeah,
Like
It's like having a perma Ashen Hallow down for the whole poll, just from a shard on each character. Yeah, and I think it's important for everyone listening to this podcast to know that it's pretty early in the season, and Dorky knowing all this info about tanks and other classes is really a prime example of a lot of things will change throughout the season. Once more people get max geared above Mythic eye level, they get to see how they can perform classes in the MDI with maximum possible gear and then go back to live. Like a bunch of meta will shift because of that, and new strats will come out. So you can't always take the meta at the beginning of a season as law for a while. You got to keep your mind open because a lot of things always change.
Especially like start of the season, you'll see people playing their raid characters, and like that often is not actually, those will be the high keys done because those are just the geared characters. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited about tanks this season because I feel like they are really closely balanced, but they all have really unique strengths, right? Like Prop Paladin does just an absurd amount of damage, right? That's its strength, and like it's balanced by being pretty squishy. Bear is absurd
Yeah.
amount of tankiness, but on a long cooldown and has problems outside of that window. Brewmaster has a lot of value, I think, as well. A lot of strong things going for it this tier as well. Prot Warrior completely immune to physical damage.
Warrior also does a fuck ton of AoE. Like,
yeah.
oh yeah, it's a lot.
So I'm excited. I think this season is going to be one where it's like a good tank on any spec can work in any key level, but they're gonna have to play the dungeon differently from each other, right? It's not gonna be one of those seasons where you just slot in the same route and it works, right? Like if you are doing a high key with a bear, it needs to look different than if you're doing a high key with a brewmaster, right? Those are just two fundamentally different approaches to the dungeon. I think it's really exciting that they both look viable. And sure, one is going to be better, and we don't know what's going to be better for like the very bleeding edge keys, but it might honestly be within the range of like player skill difference overcoming that difference between specs, which was not true of like Prot Warrior season, right? But I guess you were playing Bear that season, but like nobody else had enough skill to overcome
Those
that
were
gap.
dark times.
Yeah,
Dratnos, chat spamming blood DK, copium.
Blood Decay. Decay is so cool.
Okay, so all right, I say this all the time. People always give me flack for this, but I swear to God, Blood Decay is so tanky when it's done right.
Yeah, the problem
Like,
with Blood
look-
Decay is like you mess up one global on that thing in a hard pull and you're
Yeah, it's
you're
the
gone.
reliability
Dead.
that's an issue
Yeah.
with the class.
Yeah.
Prot
It's
Valley's kind of
always-
like that too, though.
I mean, Blood has always kind of been like that, though, where if the player gets distracted by something, they'll just die to some random shit, and you're like, bro.
Okay, but I mean, in some situations, it's a bit more extreme. Like BFA, Blood Decay, ooh, that class is something else. That's actually where the birth of my bear came from. Like, I don't know who was there at the time. I believe it was like me, Billy, and Verse, and some other guys. We were just doing some keys, like some nice chill keys. I was still playing on Holy DK at the time, and then I wanted to tank with Blood DK for a bit. And we're just doing some like 2021 Natal Czar or whatever, and I'm like, God damn, I'm just getting destroyed as a Blood DK. So I just swap over. I'm like, you know what? I'll just play some bear tank for the hell of it and try it out. I'm like, wait, this class is actually not that bad. I could just like do some alt keys on this, and then like eventually we started doing like 24s, 25s. And at some point, these guys my team, they wanted me to swap over to bears. So, they wanted me to be a tank, and like I didn't have a Prot Warrior prepared at the time because I was just playing on Holy DK. So I was just doing some bear tanking keys.
Well, it was
No,
either
yeah.
Dorky Bear keys or it was Day Squad keys.
Yeah. But yeah, like the whole bear pulls thing, it honestly would have been Blood DK pulls, to be honest. Like how everyone always memes about bear pulls, like, oh, we're doing bear pulls and stuff. But like it would have honestly been Blood DK pulls, because back when I played Blood DK, I was just doing big pulls all the time. I remember my very first time playing with Pretzel. We were doing some shrine. He was like, dude, this is the most value I've ever had out of my meta. Because we were just doing like back-to-back large pulls in shrine. But yeah, I do think Blood Decay is like potentially really good. It just doesn't have the damage. That's like arguably the biggest thing that's like holding them back compared to other tanks.
Guardian does a lot of DPS right now if you're able to optimize for Convoke DPS and
yeah.
stuff.
Or
Yeah, and just, like,
Ravenous
pulling large
Frenzy.
rounding
Do
turn.
Frenzy Incarn, smash face against the thrash button.
Okay, that's slightly less valuable, but yeah, I guess.
I don't know, man. That's a lot of damage.
What do you think about Covenants for Bear, Dorky? Do you prefer the stronger Incarn, or do you prefer stronger outside of Incarn?
This is actually something I get asked really commonly
Yeah.
too. I honestly don't think Venfear is that great. Like, it looks really good on paper because like, oh damn, you're combining Ravenous with Incarn with like IQD or
You play
with
IQD
new
on Bear?
Oh my
EO
God.
weapon.
Dude, it's value.
Okay, no, I'm just saying. Yeah, people have brought this up to me, but I'm like, look, you're just throwing all your eggs in one basket. You're gonna make your weaknesses even more glaring. Like outside
Yeah.
of your 3-minute window, you're gonna be even squishier. You're gonna be even harder to hold aggro. And it's especially been, I've especially been feeling this way when I'm playing with Psycho, or aka Psychox X from BDGG. That guy,
Psychox,
yeah,
yeah.
Psychox. Every time he fell rushes in, he instantly pulls all the aggro in the world, and I can't do a thing for him. I'm like, yo, good luck, buddy. I'm just swiping here and thrashing, and yeah. Because like normally I would at least have like Karain and Convoke would help me sometimes. But when you're playing Venfear, oh yeah, it's definitely huge. When you're playing Venfear, it's like, well, we're really strong this 3-minute, and we're just like popping off. But then outside of that, you kind of just AFK, hibernating.
All right, let's
But
move
yeah,
on.
it's not bad. It's definitely okay. Yeah.
Let's move on to talking about healers. Because I think that this is obviously one where we have the least direct experience. But Dorky, you're a renowned student of the game.
I'm an expert.
And friend of Growl as well. Renowned
Oh, he
healer
doesn't know
there.
crap.
So, do you have a take on, are we going to see another, sea of pink this season, or is there a chance that we'll see some other classes in some high keys?
So in terms of performance, I think it's way closer. Like compared to last season you had Holy Paladins. They were the kings of healing. Well, not even healing. They're just another DPS that you brought to your group.
Yeah.
But this time around, the damage is definitely much closer. But like the thing is
Really?
that you still want Holy Paladin for a lot of things. Yeah, like I've seen a clip of Feiner doing 7.9k overall, some shit like that. I don't remember what it was, but he was
Oh,
doing
Shaman,
over
okay.
7k. Yeah, yeah, on
What?
Vesper Totem Resto Shaman. Yep, over 7k overall. But
That's insane.
Was that
the
with
thing is
the
that
Vesper Legendary?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind this is also a low key and it's a mist, so there's not a lot of healing required. He's probably just spamming chain lightning nonstop, and
Yeah.
he's built for
Oh, okay.
damage.
Yeah.
But like one of the biggest issues with Resto Shaman is that they can't be doing damage and healing at the same time. So when you're faced with a lot of healing, which of course like hierarchies you have a lot more healing, or if you're doing like halls for example, where you just have actual healing to do between the shards and tank healing, you can't do that much damage. Whereas Holy Paladin, you can just like slam down an Ashen and just blast. But another thing too is that the damage profile matters a lot. Like I know we're talking about healers right now, but damage matters a lot. This is also something that I feel a lot of people
People
don't
don't get it.
understand.
And, well, I
Yeah,
think
it's
people
like
asking the question of like what healer is good, if a lot of people who put that question in Twitch chat are doing keys at a level where the healers they play with don't do any damage anyways, and so like all of these considerations are completely out the window in that case, right? And that's I think the clearest evidence that the question is not especially relevant for like there. It's just
Well-
play with whatever the best healer you know is.
I mean, last season, it's like if you had one fire mage from one group doing 10k DPS, and then one fire mage from another group doing 13,000 DPS, and you're like, what the fuck are they doing different? That's like the difference between having a Resto Shaman versus a Holy Paladin last season is like 3k DPS. Whereas if you saw a like one person doing 3k DPS differential in a dungeon, you'd be like, get me that fucking guy right now, bring him over, I need him. Whereas if it's like healer DPS, it's largely overlooked for whatever reason.
Yeah, definitely by
we always
the
compare
balance
Growlithe.
team.
Yeah. Like every time I look at Ellsmer's DPS, I'm like, oh man, kind of wish we had that DPS in our group.
Yeah, it's like every time you get to an Ashen pull, especially with the Guardian Druid in the group, the healer is like unleashed as a H-Pal. They can just do so much damage. Like the first pull of Spires, I think I saw us mirrored second on the meters, right next to the Boomkin, which is basically 4 DPS for every other pull in that dungeon.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But I mean, yeah, it's like you were saying earlier, when you're just doing 15, 20 keys, whatever, you're just pugging. This is the thing I don't understand about pugs. Like, why the hell does it matter what healer you play with? It honestly really doesn't matter as long as the healer doesn't die and know how to press the healing buttons. Because I feel like that's more important than anything else. You want to bring the player over the healer or the spec. Because, like, chances are, if you're playing with a Resto Shaman or a Holy Paladin, they're probably not doing that much damage anyways. They're just brought there for doing their healing jobs. Which, I mean, honestly, you can just bring, like, a Boomkin, to do that.
The Holy Paladins you're finding at that level are probably playing Kyrian anyway, so it's that is by far the most common among like just the pugging population.
Well, the shamans you're gonna get are Necrolord,
And the shamans are Necrolord too. Yeah,
without wearing the Rock
probably
Boy
true,
legendary. They're not. I mean, at least they bring lust.
true. How about anybody have any other sleeper healers they want to talk about? I think Tettle's put these in the notes. Kyrian Priest, Night Fae Druid. Anyone want to make a case for anything else being cool this season?
I've been playing with a Night Fae
Tyrion Priest is
Resto.
always good.
Go ahead, Charlie. Yeah.
Night Fae Resto. Oh, Jabal. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Jam have been playing a lot, a little bit, I guess, but he can definitely heal a lot as Night Fae Resto, and that's good to see. I think as keys go higher, more healing is going to be required, of course. And maybe the H-Pals will have to heal a little bit more and do less damage, and that would help the other healing classes for sure.
Tettle's just put Venthyr Mistweaver Monk into the show notes.
Okay, Tettles.
Is that a thing?
That's a hack. People don't know about it though.
That's a hack.
I don't know if it's good for high keys or I actually don't know much about it, but I do know it's very, very good.
Okay, you don't know much about it, but you do know it's very, very good.
Well, Yes, it's their best healing. It's their best healing covenant. And it also deals a decent bit of damage.
Okay, cool. I'm
But I don't know if it's the best healer for Mythic Plus. Let me be very clear. That's what I meant when I don't know much
okay.
about
Okay.
it. I know functionally how it works, but I don't specifically know if it's good enough to be for like top level keys.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Charles. Well, I know you were talking about Fey Druid. Also, the combo between Resto Druid and Brewmaster is two great tastes that taste great together, right?
Oh yeah, Brewmaster's getting a lot more sustain this season too, with all the new shards and trinkets. That's gonna be huge for Brewmaster because of Celestial Fortune and how it increases the healing and shields on you. Uh, and playing with the rest of Druid makes it feel really, really good. But that's about the end of my point. I was gonna see what to say about the priests.
All right, Dorky, final word on healers. Anything else you wanted to cover as well?
I honestly feel like you're gonna see much more diversity in healers because before you only saw Holy Paladins for a very good reason, but it's definitely not that far apart now.
I'm
do
still
think-
gonna bet like front page 70% pink.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah,
bet
yeah.
or higher.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Last season, very early on in the season, we saw like a couple of every single healer on the front page, and then Elismir started playing Vinthyr Holy Paladin in high keys, and it was everybody's like, "Oh fuck, that does the most damage."
Oh
This
yeah, and
is-
he was gaslighting everyone so hard. Don't forget about that part.
He,
Then
dude,
Elismir
he
was-
still he tricks his own team as well. Every single key he's like, "Can I play Kyrie in this
Yeah,
key?"
Oh man, if I was Kyrian Copium.
Yeah. It's a next level trick though to keep everybody else off of the secret sauce. Although now it is well and truly known just how strong that
Well,
thing is.
it was such a great tactic because that made him be able to do so much damage while he made his group aware that if he were Kyrian, he could heal the pride damage. But since he's not, the Boomkin has to do it, so he
Yeah.
can continue doing DPS.
Yeah.
Now I get gaslit in random groups.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the damage dealing metagame as well. I also am pretty hopeful for the DPS metagame this season. I'm interested to see, for instance, which mage specs are going to bang this season. It's great because we artificially get extra time to figure this out because anytime a mage wants to try something new, it takes them 2 weeks to swap to the new spec. And so, we have a long time to see what all the comparisons look like. But I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see if other stuff maybe we'll take mage out of that required in each key role. There's a lot of damage being done by specs like Windwalker doing huge damage. You've got like Elemental Shaman Havoc also doing great damage in AoE. Those a little bit less bad on single target as well than the Windwalker. And I think there's also just like a lot of specs are kind of cranking from what I can see right now, and they have their niches, and I'm pretty hyped about it. So I don't know what Dorky or I guess Trial God, yeah.
Yeah, Dorky go after me for sure, but I feel like Havoc is like the most well-rounded damage profile in the game. Like they just do such high percentile damage no matter how many targets are on the pole, no matter what the situation is. I feel like with maximum gear, they're going to be insane.
I agree. That class is OP.
Yeah, so okay, maybe one Havoc required for high key, maybe? Because the thing is, you
I
look at the
wouldn't
damage
say
meters,
required.
and it's not even showing you the Chaos brand. Like, you look at damage meters, and it's just like Havoc's near the top or whatever, and they're getting 5% of everybody else's as well.
I agree with what Dorky just said. I don't know if you heard it. He said, "I don't think Havoc is required either."
Okay.
But yeah, so I feel like DPS meta at the moment is actually crazy. Like there's so many balance specs. The thing with mages is that there are three. I mean, they're main characters, so there are 3 OP specs for the class. If they want to choose one of the specs, then it doesn't matter. They can play whatever the hell they want. But like, I know a lot of people always brag about Arcane doing good overall, but I don't really see Arcane as much just because their utility is not as good as Frost or a Fire, and the fact that they have to be in melee most of the time, on top of not having 2 blocks or cauterized. I would just much rather have a Frost Mage or a Fire Mage at that point. And as
Sure.
for all the other DPS specs, something that I've noticed so far is that pretty much every class in the game can do overall damage. I know
Yeah.
people in my Twitch chat, they would ask me like, what do I think about warriors or, survival hunters, Year of the Spear,
You're the spear, baby.
and like Year of the Spear, yep. But like honestly, every class can do damage. You just wouldn't bring a warrior anyways, because unless they do an overwhelmingly large amount of damage, you're much better off just playing something else like a Windwalker or a Havoc or an Outlaw Rogue, which has way more utility and they bring other stuff like Chaos Brand and Mystic Touch. So there's just like very little room for some of these specs, even though they can do overall damage.
The rogues I've kind of seen this season, it seemed like they've fallen off a little bit in terms of DPS. Granted, not a lot of them have been gearing and or playing outlaw. Have you been noticing something similar? I don't know what JR's been up to.
I don't know if I can agree with that, because something that we've encountered from the keys we've been doing this season is that, especially if you're playing with a bear tank, which I assume a lot of teams are, the way you're structuring your pulls is that you're doing large pulls every 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And in those 3-minute windows, everyone's just bursting their AoE damage. You have a Ventfear Boomy popping their 3-minute. You have an Ellie Shaman popping their 2.5-minute. And then, or if you're playing with a Windwalker too, they're popping their 2 minutes. But then after that, what do you do? Nobody does any damage. You don't have anyone who can like do
So
damage in between.
rogues are carrying the
Yeah.
hibernation windows.
The Havoc
Exactly,
Demon
yeah.
Hunter and the Rogue or
Yeah.
the Hibernation
Havoc
classes.
too. Yep.
The consistent damage classes for sure.
Dude, Aflock as well. Aflock's, like, if the pulls have 5 or more targets all the time, Aflocks are cranking too in keys. I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
every
Yep,
1
Lobster
minute, I
Shell do
believe.
crazy damage.
Yeah.
They're pretty good right now, yeah.
They're playing
The-
that seed spam shit.
The problem is the boss damage is kind of womp womp, but the rest of the time is pretty great.
I see.
Womp womp.
I think Ellie is also. I feel like I'm very much on the Ellie train. I believe that that's
Yeah, I
probably
can
the
see
best.
it. Totally.
I believe that that's the best spec, but
Which Covenant? Faye?
I think in Faye, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like Faye Ellie is the
Crane,
best. And
dude. Crane's a hell of a drug when you run your crits deal extra damn.
well, Dorky talked about Ellie doing DPS every 2.5 minutes, but in reality, that spec does DPS every minute. Like
Oh yeah, of course.
that spec does a
But,
fucking
I
lot
mean,
of damage.
Their single target vote is super lackluster outside of that 2.5 minute. Like, let's say
There's
you're
just-
doing a
yeah.
big pull and then you go into a lieutenant. Valley Shaman's gonna do like 4k DPS to the lieutenant, whereas like a rogue and a demon hunter can do like 8k, 10k,
6K, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
and it makes a very large difference.
How about hunters? Any what we see? Okay, what we've seen the last couple seasons is, oh my god, hunters are so good. They're doing so much damage. Wait, the dungeons do damage back. Okay, all right, get out of here, hunters. As the season progresses, do you think something similar might happen this season?
Yeah, hunters actually do a lot of damage right now. Like with the
Yeah.
buff and the new bow, the bow does like 5% of their overall. Kind of crazy. But
That's pretty good.
I remember that experience.
Higher keys.
Yeah, you're like the key level gets to like 25, and you just
Yeah.
they're just like, how do I live every single boss? Passive damage.
Dude, the incinerator fucking just kills them with one tick.
One
or
tick, yeah.
something. Yeah.
I'm sure in the MDI though, you'll probably see a lot of them.
I think there's a good shot there as well. Yeah, I think MDI comps are going to be interesting. I think stuff like Prot Warrior, Demon Hunter. I think Bear will still show up in MDI as well. It depends a little bit on how high the key goes. But if there's like Necrotic Halls again, I think you got to play Bear in that thing.
Necrotic anything is probably a Guardian play.
Yeah, unless they
Yeah.
fix Urslax Fury with Necrotic. But let's hope they don't do that. That's so much.
I'd rather them just fix Necrotic personally, but
They did
Here
that
we
for
are.
a day on PTR. But
Yeah,
it was
remember
too
that one
much.
time they nerfed Necrotic for one day and then they
Yeah.
reverted it?
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a good day.
Same.
Yeah, and then I think the Holy Paladin is basically a lock for MDI unless something really weird is happening, but that I'd be most confident about that. And then the DPS comp, whew, I don't know. I'm excited. I think it could be any number of things.
It's not
Yeah,
moved.
we speculated a lot. We're not entirely sure yet.
Yeah. All right. I
Wait,
guess that.
I had one last question.
Go ahead.
Do we think Bloodlust is required for this season?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Really?
It's definitely
you
really
played
nice
that
to
one?
have, but yeah, we've been playing a lot with Valor. We've been playing Rogue Havoc, Boomkin.
Boomkin HPL.
Okay.
Okay. I guess that doesn't
Yeah,
have a.
which is like it does feel bad sometimes, but I don't think it's like required.
Okay.
But I do think it would be. I mean, I feel like you always bring a mage or Elliot anyways at some point, so you probably have a loss regardless. 'Cause
My
they just
bet,
happen to be the best classes.
like of the top 100 keys, I'm gonna bet 95+% have a bloodlust.
Well, there are a lot of high key pushing mage players.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
so
that's the biggest
that does
thing. Yeah,
distort
like
things.
it's.
Yeah,
I think it's
stats.
more about the specs. Like, assuming they removed Lust from those classes and brought it to some other classes, you probably still wouldn't see Lust.
Okay, yeah, that's a good. So if they took Lust away from everything and you were running your best, your comp or whatever, and then they added it to some specs that were outside of your comp,
Yeah, they give it to like Warlock or something.
yeah, would you play? That is an interesting way to
Nah,
think
I
about
don't
it.
think so.
Yeah.
Because at the moment you just bring him for the specs anyways, regardless of Lust.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Okay, let's move on to the thanking of the patrons, and then we will go to Q&A. Our lovely patrons include Paul of US Tichondrius, Kumcubine of US Tichondrius, Will Tettles continue to mess up Nyx's name? Find out soon. Gainful employment is not fun. Ja, Dratnos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Never Nude, Chewy, Trell reads Elvish like linguist. Of course, did read Elvish last week, right? Very cool. Hi, I'm Tettles, and I get
Very
Nyx's
cool.
name wrong, and this is my punishment. It's not AMZ, it's AMZ. Salty Senny, Necris, Tankdill, Nevuk, Sinmora, Evie, Slappy Hands on Dormazane gives me purpose, Stevenson, love the Constantinople bit, take Glide to the Protector and Frenzied Regen off the GCD, No Trick, I scheduled a Tettles Flame, Sir Maticus now resides on US Dual Jin, Dymat, paint stick figures are the best way to explain raid strats, next time on Titanforge Podcast, new ways for Tettles to mess up Nyx's name, to everyone participating in the Race to World First, good luck and have fun, Titanforge, wait, isn't that the same bad name that should be updated there?
Was it?
Think
What
so.
the? How the fuck did this happen?
Titanforge podcast.
Nyx's name for the third week.
Oh my god, I can't believe you've done this, Tettles.
This may have been intentional, honestly.
This was actually intentional, yeah. They put me up to changing it in the show notes after you
Oh,
changed
what
it.
the fuck? I changed it. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I feel like this is intentional. I don't know what has happened, though.
Nicole, TFP Patreon Extraordinaire Nax, Brusif, Dratnos Routes Abyss, Dorky Routes. Very up and coming as well. Everybody should check those out. Exclamation point routes at TTV Dorky.
Does
I hope
Dorky
you-
make you? Does Dorky make you pull the villager and miss the turn of scythe?
I don't think so. I don't do
Hopefully not.
that.
I have varying routes.
You
Okay.
have your
Three
press
different
W
routes.
routes, but I don't think even in those you pull the first villager off to the side, right?
People aren't pulling villagers at all.
Oh, they aren't pulling the one right in the middle. They're skipping that too.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
shit
we skip
sucks.
everything.
That thing is hard to
That's-
skip though in a lot of groups, right? Like that, you need to do some shenanigans to get around it, right? How do you get around it?
Hold
You
left.
can just walk with.
We can walk
invis.
hard left. Okay.
Mhm.
I have not done that yet. I will do that and update accordingly.
Yeah, it's actually very easy.
I'll show you a clip later.
Okay. Then that is something that I will do for this week's rounds. M Sanity, Xena, We're Praying Handy will pump in 9-1. Rogue is now good enough for Prague. Still bad enough to be sat for SLG. Bless up. Red Color. Some Zero of US Tichondrius. YouTube.com/Workbringer. Walking Atlas. Ahara of US Proudmore. KSA's Mythic Team is Trash Cans and not Trash Cans. Snicker Shelby. Alphabet Soup. Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming. Roly Poly, number 1 Simpsky for Trelsky, Indeterminate Cloth DPS, Lolari, and Chlorix HOA Routes or Bis, unless Lurka butt pulls. Thanks all for the support. Q&A time. First one comes from Darksided in Discord, who asks, do you think we'll get 2 more tiers, or will they cut 9.3? Let's just lightning round this. Trell, what do you think?
I think they're gonna cut it for sure.
Tettles.
I think they keep it.
Dorky.
There's gonna be a 9.1.5 and a 9.2.5.
Is there going to be a 9.3?
Is there gonna be a 9.2?
Okay. We'll allow it.
Probably not.
Probably not, okay.
Yeah, I think there will. I think there will be.
I'm a believer as well. I think there will be a 9-3. So we got Trell as the doubter and the rest of us as believers, looks like. We'll check back and see how we did at the end of the expansion. I definitely think it's not sure either way. Ultramad asks, how do I get my group to live through the big urn pull with the lieutenant in DOS? They die before the urn goes off every time. Dorky, do you have any tips for how to make that thing work? That's a bear pull, if I've ever seen it.
Urn pull. I'm guessing the one on when you go left out of the beginning, right?
Yeah,
What,
so
what
it's-
lieutenant? Are they
Was it that
talking
speaker?
mask? Or are they
It-
talking which lieutenant specifically? You think?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I guess it depends on which lieutenant it is too.
Are you pulling the tormented lieutenant onto that urn on left side
Sometimes.
in World? Okay.
Sometimes.
So that I assumed that's what they were talking about, because it's big urn pull. The other urn
Yeah,
pull is not a big one; it's just medium.
If
Well,
it's
if
with the
you-
fire guy, it's definitely a little bit harder. But I mean, realistically, you only have that mob to kick, and you ignore the shadow cores and all, which means that your tank needs to be like a bear tank or something with a large cooldown to survive.
Okay, yeah, so that's the one on the ring where before you go to the Ardenweld area. Are you ever pulling the lieutenant in the Ardenweld area onto its urn, all the way through onto their urn, or nah?
Oh, if we're talking about in the Ardenweald area,
Is
no,
that something you ever done? Okay,
no, that's a little too wild.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know
I was
that's.
trying to imagine doing that. That would be a lot.
I know that's
I think-
Sagadon half the time. I wouldn't mess with that with physical damage necessarily.
Baruth the other half, which is
Also pretty bad.
fucking-
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So maybe if that's the thing you're trying to do, don't try it. All right. Next
But
question.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah, but I'll say generally when it comes to the mask plus Death Speaker, the only limiting factor is the mask. Like as long as the
Yeah.
mask dies within 1 or 2 casts, you can generally live one of them with personals. You can generally live the second one with a stun from the urn. And if you can break that, if you can like beat that DPS check, that pull should be pretty free. Like the rest of the damage is on the tank or just like dodging. Like I always say to my team, just dodge.
That dude, I don't know why I haven't thought of that.
She does it mask.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's all there is to do. If you're a DPS or a healer in that pull, right? You just dodge, and then there's nothing else happening.
Our next
Don't get
question.
hit a frontal.
You got the big funnel and you got the mask AoE, and that's about it, right?
Yep.
Our next question comes from Penguin Meat, who asks, "Do you think we're going to have an obvious affix push week this season, like in previous seasons? And what affixes are you looking for? Would you like to be in the coming weeks?" So I think this is kind of a two-part question, right? Like the question, part one is like, how good is the best week relative to the next couple? And then the next one is like, just how good is the overall calendar hopefully going to be? Another interesting thing as well this season is you got to push on Tyran as well, which doubles the potential amount of weeks. Dorky, what do you think about the texture of the calendar so far?
What I've noticed they've been doing is that they've been trying to make every week as bad as possible, or like equally bad.
Yes.
That way,
Yes, they
That
have.
way, it's like, all right, well, it's not that bad. It's like bolstering, or I guess it's as bad as necrotic. What was it, inspiring, whatever the hell?
Necrotic. It was like necrotic.
Yeah, necrotic inspiring. Yeah.
It was bolster quaking. Was it necrotic inspiring? Fuck, that one was bad too.
But yeah, it's too early to tell what are the push weeks. I'm sure it'll still be roughly the same, where you want bursting, you sort of want sanguine, and you definitely want
Volcanic.
Dude,
volcanic, raging, those stuff.
I hope they make like one of those classic push weeks, but just for tyrannical, and then there's not one for it, but
Like
we'll see.
what? Bursting volcanic.
Yeah, bursting volcanic, raging volcanic, whatever, like bursting explosive.
Bursting. Or it was like sanguine volcanic was like the OG push week.
Yeah,
Like, that was the
Yeah.
Legion one.
sanguine overflowing. Any
That was a fucking meme fix too.
That was
when
Any
old
ancient
sanguine?
gamers?
Yeah.
Dude, it's actually crazy though. I feel like Blizzard has been conditioning me to not feel that bad about tyrannical. Like I'm slowly starting to enjoy tyrannical, and I feel like I'm losing my mind.
Well, it's because they're making the affixes on fortified fucking awful. Like we just got done with bolstering, and I
Well,
was just like, oh, thank fucking god.
okay,
it's
but-
sanguine.
Think about the way it used to be
Yeah,
was
true.
you only saw bolstering on tyrannical. You only saw necrotic on tyrannical. So that was when it was in
Not
an
in BFA,
imbalanced state. For all of BFA, you never saw bolstering with Fort, right? It was only in Legion
No, you
was the
did,
last
no.
time we saw it, I think.
No, in BFA it was bolstering, quaking, and bolstering skittish, I think.
Okay.
Oh no,
Yeah.
bolstering
Yeah, it was
Grievous,
bolstering
that's what it
skittish.
was.
It was
Yeah,
bolstering
bolstering
skittish.
bolstering skittish and
Yeah.
bolstering grievous fortified.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah, which
I had misremembered that.
well, the biggest issue with one season of BFA was the emissaries, where there were literally only 2 push weeks on the whole fucking calendar.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
That
because
was
you could
bad.
only push on Enchanted Week, so there were only
Yes.
4 weeks on the calendar, and then 2 of those are Tyran weeks.
2 of those were bad Tyran
Yeah.
weeks. And you're just like, okay, guess I can only push 2 weeks.
All right, next question comes from Dragona92, who asks, "Where do people turn for guidance if you're a tank or healer that's off meta and there's no popular streamer playing it or streaming it?"
become the popular streamer, figure it out for yourself, and lead the class to victory.
I think this is a great hidden part of what makes the meta so compelling, though, is like if you are, you know, some holy paladin trying to learn how to do key, you have like 40 streamers you can go watch. You have Wings is Up, right? Ellesmere's website to go read. You have all these, you know, great resources to like figure out how to get the most out of your holy paladin and keys, and you don't have to figure it out yourself. But if you're trying to do it with like, I don't know, Mistweaver Monk, right? Like that, you are going to have to solve a lot of those problems yourself, right? And not you don't get to stand on the shoulders of giants in the same way.
So I have great advice for this. If you're sitting there and you're like, I want to go see a prot paladin play, you go to Twitch TV, you type in /Dorki, and you go into his chat, you highlight the text box, and you type in his chat, play Amino. And then he'll look at that and be like, hell no, not an Amino key.
There's
Great
actually,
advice.
dude, there is another strat for finding streamers of a spec. I will show you the tech on Raider.io. So if you go Raider.io, you go M+, you go like spec leaderboard, say you wanted Mistweaver, right? You go Mistweaver, and you actually can just scroll down until you see a red dot next to somebody's name, and that means they're streaming, and they're linked to their profile. Sometimes you got to go fairly far before you'll see one. Sometimes you won't see one at all. But so in this case, it wouldn't work. Unfortunately.
In all seriousness, too, like I was memeing earlier a little bit, but if you're playing a spec that truly nobody streams Mythic Plus on, you just have to watch several top groups and hopefully find a group that also plays something off meta. Like in the past, Dorky's group has been perfect for that. His group in season 4, BFA, as the lone bear tank pushing equal ranks to Prot Warriors. That was the great way to see what they had to do to overcome not being a meta group fully. And you could probably adapt what they did similarly to your situation in some way.
Yeah, that's something I want to say too. I've had people asking me like, "Oh, how do I become a better bear tank?" But like the best advice I can give is, don't try to be the best bear tank. Just be the best tank. It's like so much more important as tanks and healers to understand how to tank and how to heal rather than how do I play my class, because there's only so much you can know about tanks. Like I feel like tanks are pretty simple for the most part, especially bear tank, and you should be just more focused on how to tank. How do I group mobs properly? How do I, like, when should I be using my defensives? And like, what do I need to do as a tank?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, our final question comes from Forless, who asks, how much Tormentor skipping will happen in each dungeon? Do we think we will ever see 4 tormented mobs skipped in MDI or a high key? Dorky, what do you think the meta is going to look
No,
like for skips?
I don't think so. Yeah, you would never skip 4 of them, just because I feel like if you're skipping Fire and Varoof, you're missing out on a lot, and it's super punishing doing them, or not doing them. But
Yeah,
I do
those
feel like,
auras, so nasty.
yeah, I feel like if you're trying to go for time, you will always skip Frost, no matter what. Because anytime you're doing Frost, you're just like cutting a minute off your key.
It's true.
And Zagadon, these nuts are also like,
Okay.
you'd probably wanna you'd probably want to skip it a lot of times, unless your tank is like struggling to survive. You can probably skip Zagadon most of the time.
So do you think skipping like those 2 in the same key is going to be the meta for
Yeah,
like high
yeah.
keys and stuff? Okay,
Up to a certain point, yeah.
cool. I think I agree.
But I do feel like, yeah, for the Fire and Varoof, you probably want to fight it with Trash if you want to optimize time. Like, you'll probably do a lot of pulls where you end up pulling Varoof plus something or Fire Guy plus something. Like the big pull we were talking about earlier in the DOS.
Yeah, I think the fire mob is pretty doable with most packs because unless the packs have a huge amount of AoE damage to begin with, then it's pretty insane. But the executioner pulls, like when you pull that into a pack, you got to have some big CDs because 50% less healing on the tank, especially, is pretty rough.
Yep. Yeah, you need a plan for it.
All right, that is the last of our questions. Thanks so much for coming on our show, Dorky. Much appreciated. Hope to get you back on here sometime in the future. Do you have like social media, Twitter, Twitch channel, anything like that to share if people want to find you?
Yeah, I'm a small-time streamer. I'm gonna need a lot of follows and preferably subs at twitch.tv/Dorki. I also sometimes on Twitter, but I don't remember what my Twitter is.
Dorky
I'm sure
Bear.
someone can figure it
It's
out.
Dorky
I think it's
Bear.
Boar. It might be Boar.
Boar,
I
it's
don't know.
Dorky
Bear
Boar. You're right.
Yeah, because
you're
I remember.
right.
I feel like Dorky Bear was probably taken or something. I don't even know. But
Who would take
yeah,
Dorky
it's been
Bear?
great being here. I don't know.
It was me.
I don't know if
it's
it's even taken. I don't remember. Oh,
Tuttle's just getting revenge on everybody else and yoinking their Twitter handles. since
Before they
his
I
has
have to be
been.
Tuttle's one. Everybody else has
Yeah.
to be Dorky Bear one.
Dorky Boar.
Dorky Boy, yo.
All right. Well,
Otherwise, it'll be Dorky Bird.
thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll be back next week with episode 101. Maybe some stuff to announce as well on that one. We'll see. Sneak preview. But
What the
yeah.
hell?
Later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.